Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Jordan and today we are unhauling some books. It's been a while since I did a big book unhaul and I am ready for it. I'm the type of person who likes to have a curated book collection. I like to keep my favorite books and my favorite authors, and anything else I am totally fine getting rid of so that other people can find them and enjoy them more than me. So I've got 35 books here that I'm getting rid of. I was going to move them all to my nice sunroom with like the pretty white background, but this is where my books are and I didn't want to haul them all the way across the house to that room and then film and then bring them all back here. So we're doing it in here in front of my unmade bed. Please ignore that, but let's just go ahead and get into the books that I am unhauling. Like I mentioned, I like to keep my favorite books. So all of the books that I'm unhauling, I have generally negative opinions on. So I'm going to be brief with what the books are about and why I'm getting rid of them, because in general it's just because these books aren't for me. I'm ready to pass them on, so I'm not going to go too in depth. There's a lot of books, so we're going to try to rapid fire it a little bit. I've got them separated into groupings. So let's start with the biggest group, which is my thrillers, my mystery thriller books, which is my preferred genre, but of course they all can't work for me. So the first one that I'm unhauling is Night Film by Marisha Pessl. I've been holding on to this for a while. I didn't love this book, but it is a really cool book because it has a lot of mixed media elements, and I do actually like the cover quite a bit, but unfortunately not enough to justify keeping it. So I'm gonna pass that one on in hopes that it finds someone who really loves it. Then I've got two Megan Miranda books. I've got The Perfect Stranger and All the Missing Girls. When I was looking through all the books that I'm unhauling and removing them from my Goodreads owned shelf, these two I was actually surprised to find that they were both 4-star ratings from me, so I did actually like them, but I have just forgotten almost everything about them. So they're probably more like 3-star ratings, and I've also decided at this point that Megan Miranda is not going to be an author that I collect all of her books, so because they're just meh books for me, I am getting rid of them. I will say one cool thing about All the Missing Girls is that it's told in backwards order, which I thought was really well done when I read it, but let's pass it on to someone new who hasn't read it yet, who might love it and remember it more than me. Speaking of duo books, I also for some reason have 2 copies of The End of Her by Sherry Lapina. To be completely honest, I don't remember buying either of these copies, so I don't know where or when I got them or how I ended up with 2, but this book I did not enjoy. I gave it 2 stars, so I am definitely okay with letting the hardcover and the paperback go. Then I've got Good as Gone by Amy Gentry, which I have not heard much talked about on BookTube, so you might not know what this is. I didn't know what it was when I picked it up. I picked it up just because the cover is yellow and the spine is pink, and I really like my colorful rainbow shelves, but now that my collection is getting bigger, I can fill this pink space with an actual favorite and get rid of this 3-star thriller. Speaking of 3-star thrillers, I've got The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James and The Stranger Behind You by Carol Goodman. Both of these were completely fine, but completely unmemorable. We've got Madam by Phoebe Wynn, which I can't remember if this was a 2-star or 3-star book for me. I do actually really like the cover, but overall don't need to keep it just for that. And then the last thriller that I have is one that I don't feel meh about, I actively disliked, and it's The Husband's Secret by Leanne Moriarty. Unfortunately, this book had a bunch of fat phobia in it that I did not think was warranted. Leanne Moriarty doesn't seem to be sticking with me as an author, so I definitely want to get this one off of my shelves as soon as possible. And let's see, my next biggest stack or category is probably nonfiction. This is a genre I thought I wanted to read more at the start of my adult reading career. I thought I would read more nonfiction books, so I bought a bunch and have liked some of them, but most of them haven't really loved, so I'm ready to get rid of them. The first one is You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. I know that this is like a life-changing book for a lot of people, but for me was not. It just felt cheesy and preachy, and though I love the yellow cover and spine, I'm ready to let it go. Speaking of yellow spines, I've got 2 other nonfiction yellow books. I've got Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. This is a nonfiction book about how the best employees and the best people get results out of the people around them and basically multiply their greatness. I remember thinking this was fine. Just probably not going to reread it, and don't consider it a favorite book by any means, but hey, it might strike a chord with somebody else. There's some construction going on behind my house, so I'm sorry if you hear trucks beeping as they back up. Next one I have is When to Rob a Bank by Stephen D. Levitt and Stephen J. Dubner. This is the author duo that's written the books Freakonomics and Super Freakonomics, which I do own. I'm gonna keep them because my husband also has read and generally enjoyed those books, so I don't want to get rid of what's also kind of his books. But this is just a collection of essays or like articles written by these 2 authors. It's not really cohesive with those 2 other books and didn't do anything to me that was revolutionary. That makes me want to keep it in addition to those 2 books, so I'm going to get rid of it. Then I have a nonfiction book called Why Doctors Skip Breakfast by Gregory Charlop, MD. This is a really short book all about intermittent fasting. I had received this book for free to review, and I was interested in it because I do enjoy intermittent fasting as a diet concept or whatever, but I think this book is going to outdate itself really quickly, and in general I don't hold on to like self-help or dieting type books like this, so I figure I might as well pass it on while it's still somewhat relevant. And then the last nonfiction book that I have is called Three Women by Lisa Taddeo. I have a little bit of a personal tie to this book that made me want to pick it up, but ultimately didn't enjoy it, so I'm ready to unhaul it. All right, getting into some smaller stacks. A classic, or kind of a classic, is Go Set a Watchman by Harper Lee. This is the sequel to To Kill a Mockingbird, and it was written somewhat recently, so I don't know if it's technically a classic. It was written in 2015. I don't feel like it added a lot to the story to me. I'd rather just keep To Kill a Mockingbird as its own classic thing that I may revisit in the future, but probably will never revisit this. And I don't have like a classics collection or anything, so I'm ready to let this one go. I've got a single romance here. It's Call Me By Your Name by Andre Osman. I know a lot of people love this book. I just didn't. The writing style did not work for me. The love story did not work for me. I hope that I can find a home for it with somebody who will love it as much as a lot of people do. I have some book of the month books that I'm getting rid of. I frequently do book of the month reading vlogs on my channel, so all of these have been featured in one of those in the past if you're interested. But the first one is Imposter Syndrome by Kathy Wang. I was really hoping this would be like a female empowerment, women in STEM kind of science fiction story, but it fell completely flat for me. So if I'm not going to recommend it, I really don't need to hold on to it. I've got The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates. This is a magical realism historical fiction book, and I don't really do magical realism, so this really didn't work for me. This is another pretty beloved book by the people who love it. Like, I don't think everyone loves it, but the people who do really love it, and I definitely did not really love it. And then lastly, Girl A by Abigail Dean. This is a book, it's a fiction book, but it's about this family that was like a house of horrors where the parents severely abused all of the children, and then the children eventually got free. I was hoping this would be creepier and more interesting, but was pretty boring, so did not live up to my expectations. Let's see what section to go to next. Let's go ahead and do some science fiction. Science fiction is a genre that I've recently started loving, so I actually don't have too many books that I'm unhauling in this genre because I've liked most of the things that I've picked up. But the first one I'm getting rid of is Dare to Know by James Kennedy. This one had a really cool premise, and I had never heard anyone talk about it, so I was really excited about it, but turned into this like fever dream of a book that I did not follow and did not feel like good science fiction to me. So I'm unfortunately gonna get rid of this really cool cover. And then one that is kind of science fiction but also a little bit dystopian, and probably some people would consider it fantasy, but Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I was so hoping that I was gonna love this book because so many people do, and I love that dystopian genre so much. This was just a bit too political for me and made me start to think that maybe I'm growing out of my love for dystopian books. So I will not be finishing the series and don't have any reason to hold on to it otherwise. Another short stack I've got here is historical fiction. First we've got The Book Thief, another beloved book that I just did not jive with. I want to hand it off to somebody else who is going to absolutely love it. The Tattooist of Auschwitz was just okay to me. I was hoping it would hit me a lot more emotionally, but it stayed kind of surface level, but it does have generally good reviews, so maybe somebody else will pick it up and love it. And then Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, which on paper kind of sounds like something I would love. It's like a post-apocalyptic, almost kind of dystopian book, but it just ended up being way too slow, and like the Shakespeare parts of it didn't work for me. I kind of found there to be no plot, so I was a little confused at why this has so much hype. But at the end of the day, it's not for me, and that's okay. Okay, then I've got a few contemporary books. I've got this one called The Existence of Amy by Lana Grace Riva. I believe I also got this book for free to review it, and it's a contemporary book that explores mental illness. I did generally enjoy it, I just didn't fall in love with it or anything, and the cover is not anything that makes me want to hold on to it for a long time. Then I've got two Mitch Albom books. I've got Tuesdays with Morrie and The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. These are kind of like, not exactly self-help, but they're like fictional books. Actually, Tuesdays with Morrie is kind of mainly nonfiction, but they're kind of meant to inspire you to like live your life to the fullest. They were okay to me. I didn't feel overly inspired or anything. I bought them for pretty cheap at a used bookstore, and so they will probably be going back to that used bookstore. Then we have one that I bought several years ago at the very start of my adult reading career. I bought it 100% because of the cover and because it was really cheap at a used bookstore. It's called 9 Women, One Dress. It's about 9 women who all have this experience with the same dress, but it's not like the same dress, it's just like the same design of a dress. So I thought it was gonna be more like interconnected and interweaved, and it just wasn't. So I was disappointed by it, and was burned a little bit by this cover buy. I do still love the color of it, but it's time to let that one go. And then actually two more that I love the covers of. The first one is Writers and Lovers by Lily King. This is a contemporary book that is a little bit slower and more like melancholy and character driven. I thought it was okay, but people who love this really love this, so I want to pass it on, give someone else a chance to love it. But it is one of my favorite covers. I for some reason really like the random like objects on there. And then I also really love the cover of The Mothers by Britt Bennett. This one similarly people really love, but I just found it to be a little slow and abstract. I didn't love the writing style, so I haven't picked up Britt Bennett's other book, The Vanishing Half, yet. Probably someday I will, because that plot sounds interesting to me, but this one did not do anything to completely blow my socks off. Also, while I do love the look of this cover, I'm not too mad at getting rid of it because the spine is really hard to place on my rainbow shelves because it's multicolored. So that's kind of a dumb reason, but it's a reason nonetheless that I'm okay with getting rid of it. And then last but not least, I have a small stack of books that I have not read yet that I decided I don't want to. We've got Neuromancer by William Gibson. I think this is like science fiction-y, but after rereading the plot again after having purchased it, I decided I have other things I want to read more, so it's gonna go. Same with Blank by Ted Dekker. This is a very well used and well read used copy, some science fiction-y type book. I'm just not jumping up and down to read it right away, so let's make some room on the shelves. One I'm a little bit bummed about is Shatter Me by Tahira Mafi. This is the first book in a young adult dystopian series, and I was really excited. I wanted to read the entire series of this book, but again, after getting to know my taste a little bit more, I think I'm just growing out of my love of dystopian books, and I don't want to dive into a like 10 book long series or something if I'm not gonna completely love it. And then last but not least, we have Unearthed by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This is a young adult sci-fi type book. I actually did start to read this one night. I only got like 10 pages in or something, and the writing was just not working for me, so I decided to put it down and unhaul it before I even really dove in, which is maybe unfair of me, but again, the gist of this is I want these books to go to people that are going to read them and love them, and I think there is an audience for this book that is just not me, and they will probably enjoy it more than me. So that's it. Those are the, I think, like 35-ish books that I am unhauling. Where are they gonna go? A variety of places. I will be going somewhere very exciting very soon where I'll be able to sell some of these books. I think I'm also gonna bring some of the more well-worn copies of books to like little free libraries in my area, and then I also want to build a little free library for my own house and have some books to stock it with. I'm still trying to convince my husband that that's a good idea, but that is in my mind for the near future, so probably I will save some books to go in there. But overall, hopefully to better homes to people who like these books more than I did. Let me know if you enjoyed any of the books that I'm getting rid of, or if you have unhauled any books recently, let me know. It feels good to just get rid of stuff sometimes, and yes, I am guilty of obviously also buying books, but it feels good to just purge books too every once in a while. So that's all I have. I will let you go. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one.